You already know what time it is. It's your boy DJ Richie Skye back with some tea, interviews, recaps, and more. And be sure to check the links in the description of this video for trips, for books, one-on-one sessions, and more. Now let's get into the tea. Skye Squad, we are back in the building. Yes, indeed, we are back. We are back. After taking a couple of days off, I feel a little bit better. Got rid of a little bit of weight around the face. Got this beard trimmed down, and we are back in action. Okay, so let's talk. Let's really get into the latest episode of The Real Housewives of Atlanta. Okay, so we're going to be discussing the Charles, Angela, and Porsha of it all, because I don't really feel like we got clarity on whether or not Porsha indeed wants to shag Charles or not. Is that what she want to do? Like, is Charles next in line? Like, is Charles the new Simon? According to Angela and according to Kelly, he is. Okay? Because they both said that Porsha said if Angela keep messing around with her, she gonna end up effing Charles. And I ain't talking about Miss Netta's Charles either. I'm talking about Charles the Oakley. Now this is just according to the episode. According to Angela, according to Kelly, that's what the tea was. Angela was allegedly filming the girls. She was allegedly filming the girls as they were partying at the Ponderosa. Oh, the Ponderosa was supposed to be yesterday, y'all. Oh my God, I felt so bad yesterday. But your boy needed the break, okay? I needed the break. So expect me to take breaks when I need them, right? Because you cannot pour from an empty cup. That's the one thing that I've just kind of come to terms with. I cannot pour from an empty cup, okay? Let that be a lesson to all of you. Now, let's continue on. This episode really, to me, underscores something that I feel like you guys may or may not agree with. But I as I watched the episode, I couldn't help but notice some similarities between Porsha and NeNe. Now, what do I mean by this? I mean that when the two of them are upset about something, they kind of react in similar ways. Now, I think that Portia's a Cancer. So there's a lot of her reactions that I can totally understand, right? As a Cancer, if I am upset, if I'm annoyed, it doesn't happen very often, to be very honest with you. Like, it takes a minute for me to get there. Or it takes it takes something really kind of crazy for me to allow, because I know that I'm this type of person. So I think as you mature and you grow, you kind of understand how to interact and how to deal with people when you're not in the best space. But Porsha reminds me of the way NeNe used to react to things by kind of just shutting down. And in that shutdown space, it comes across almost entitled, like I'm here, I'm not here, I'm doing my job by showing up, but I'm not gonna give y'all anything. Y'all have all annoyed me, and what it does is it brings down the energy in the room. That's why I was going back to say that as a matured Cancer, I've kind of understood that mood, when you go there, it really does impact everybody, right? That mood permeates, especially when it is your birthday, it is your event, it is your gathering that is making everybody come together. So now everybody is literally going to ask you the most annoying question possible when something is wrong with you. What's wrong? Whenever something is wrong with somebody, it's probably best to pull them to the side and ask them, because asking them what's wrong is only going to draw attention to the problem at hand, that something is wrong with you, right? It's going to be annoying to the person that's being asked. But the person that's being asked wouldn't have to be asked that question if they could compartmentalize their issues and their problems and deal with them head on. I.e., Porsha is choosing not to deal with Drew, and instead she is reserving this anger for Dennis, but she is still passive aggressively responding to Drew. Nene used to do the same thing. I love Nene, love Nene. But Nene, was it season 11 reunion? I think it was, where she just completely, I feel like, kind of just shut down, like not really answering questions. It was a season. Eva was there, Shamari was there, Porsha was pregnant at the time, I think. And I just remember that Nene just shut completely down. I think it was also the season that Cynthia ended up bringing Kenya to the last, like one of the last events of the season. And Nene didn't respond very well to that. So her and Cynthia were at odds. And Nene, again, like she just shut down. And it was so annoying because I'm like, this is the reunion. This is the stage for us to be like, for you to bring it and give your energy. And she just didn't really want to give anything. And I feel like that's what Porsha did in last night's episode. And I just really did not appreciate it personally. And I understand life is going to happen. Life is going to life. And she is literally going through, and she is correct in how she feels. I don't think that Porsha is in the wrong specifically for how she feels about what is happening between Drew and with Dennis, because it's kind of like a situation where if you when you think you have a handle on it, you really realize that you don't have a handle on it, and they're doing what they want to do anyway. And being on this platform and then having to deal with that, also dealing with the Simon of it all and the divorce, for what she claims on Watch What Happens Live, she don't even know what's going on with Simon. Because Andy asked if he was still being detained, and Porsha was like, I don't have any answers, or I just don't know anything about it. Which is also surprising to me because she is going through the divorce. So in my mind, I'll be like, well, where is he? I mean, I don't know. That's just me, but I don't know. Maybe she want to wash her hands of it, just like she washing her hands of that man. Okay, but according to Angela, she after hers. Now, a part of me feels like Porsha was probably being drunk facetious, but given what happened with Fallon and Simon and Porsha and the murky waters that exist with that whole situation, I just kind of feel like Angela's like, let me hide my kids, hide my husband. Porsha on the loose. I don't really think Porsha is trying to add another man to that mix of chaos that she's got going on right now with Dennis and Drew, and then Simon of it all, and the courts and the doc and the house and the divorce and all that kind of stuff like that. But it still ain't necessarily the most savory thing to say. Okay, it's probably not the most savory thing to say, specifically after you'd already joked about allegedly knowing something about Angela's husband, Charles, and then refused to tell her, and then and use that under the guise of a joke, right? Is this another joke? I don't know. If I had to rate this episode on a scale of 1 to 10, I would kind of probably give it like an 8, maybe just an 8. I mean, I do have to say that the best part of the episode to me was Porsha and Cynthia sitting in Porsha's bedroom, and they're talking and they're kind of reminiscing about, well, they're talking about the issues that Porsha is dealing with Drew and Dennis, and then the divorce, and then just, the breakdown of it all with Porsha taking off her eyelashes and them just kind of bonding in that way. Cynthia, it made me realize as I watched this episode how pivotal Cynthia is to this mix of girls. Like, she's pivotal to this group because they're missing that guiding light, right? They're missing somebody that can corral them all together and get them literally herded onto one accord. Cynthia seems to be the only person that can move conversations in a way that is peaceful, that is productive, and really, I would say, advocate for what she feels like is right in every instance. even when her friends are dead wrong, she is completely advocating for the right things to do. And I think that that takes a lot of guts and a lot of courage because she has to know it's on some level that she's going to get some backlash for that. But I admire the fact that she is willing to take her own stances with these women. And whether or not it goes with the tide or against the tide, Cynthia is standing firm in her beliefs, but she does so in a way that is neutralizing to the chaos. And I think that this group really, really needs that because they don't have that guiding force, right? So, that aside, this episode really centers around Porsha, Drew, and Angela. There is, without really diving too deep right at the onset of this video, and I know that we're like 11 minutes in right now, but I do feel like I want to kind of touch on a couple of extraneous aspects to this particular episode. One being Shamia's story. Her daughter is unfortunately dealing with some issues while she's on the trip, which is making her already emotional. Then she's also dealing with a text that she gets from someone who I guess maybe wasn't as responsive or as helpful or was not a soft space for her to land when she was going through her own DV instance, or I should say situation, because it sounds like it was probably a much larger. Um, when I have to talk about these things, it's very disturbing to me because I just I can't imagine what goes through somebody's mind when they decide to reach out and touch their spouse in that way, and or their partner or whomever it is that they're dating. Like, this is supposed to be the person that you love. This is supposed to be the person that you want to take care of. I understand that people are going to upset you at times, but not to the point where you want to haul off and do something to them that would actually hurt them. That literally boggles my mind when I hear about it every time. It never like, as much as I hear it, it never I struggle to wrap my brain around it. I always do. Anyway, that aside, we get that bit of story from her, and she is still kind of going through that whole situation. I say this because I think that the episodes struggle just a bit to me when Shamia is not at the center in a way that feels like she seems more of a supporting Peach in these episodes. And granted, it's likely because this is her best friend's birthday. So, yeah, I mean, you're not going to want to try to take center stage when it is your best friend's birthday and it's her weekend. And so Portia takes the stage most of the time in these couple of episodes. And because of her mood, it feels like it weighs down the episodes. Is it just me? For instance, when you watch Portia on Watch What Happens Live, she is her normal bubbly self. That is the Portia that I want to see, that I would love to see on my screen. Like, I don't know that I want to see all the sides of Portia because I recognize some of those sides just being a Cancer. I just do. Those are also sides that I don't really like about myself per se, right? So I manage them in a way that they don't really appear so that they don't affect group dynamics, specifically when I have to be around a group for an extended period of time. Now, um, and that goes back to the Nene aspect of it. These were some of the things that I felt like weighed down those episodes in the past. The thing about reality TV is, regardless of how you feel, with the moment that you stop giving is the moment that it becomes hard to watch. And that's on any show. Go back and watch any show where a character just begin to exist in the scene, and it totally weighs it down. Now, this whole beef between Portia and Drew would be much more exciting if they were both willing to have back and forth dialogue, but that doesn't happen, and it hasn't happened since episode 1/2. So if you're not going to give me Kim and Nene vibes, where you're going to go back and forth, if you're not going to give me Dr. Heavenly and Mariah vibes, then it's not necessarily that fun to watch because it turns into a passive aggressive like fest, and you're just kind of like, okay, what am I watching? Nobody's giving me anything entertaining. At least bounce off of each other to go back and forth about something. I mean, this is a real issue. And I feel like Drew coming into the house, even as she has to go and stay in the bunk bedroom, is like, I don't know. Angela's taking a lot of heat for inviting Drew on this trip. And the way they play this on the show is like, no, absolutely, she should not have done that. And granted, we know that. We know that, but we know that how this show works because we've seen it so many years. We know that somebody has to invite the outcast, and Drew definitely feels like an outcast on this show. Like, I feel like Drew is filming a different show. I don't know what show she's on, but she's on a different show. And they just continue to invite her in. Angela invites her in, and she, does what she does. She does what she needs to do. She looks fabulous in every confessional. She shows up to scenes, but it just never feels like she's in the group to me. And so we know that Angela had to invite her. We know that somebody had to get her there to the all cast event because it's the first cast trip of the season. So, granted, while no, she shouldn't be invited, we know that in the world of Housewives, someone's going to invite her. So, but they play it like real life. Like you should have never invited this girl to the trip. I guess I can't be mad about it, but she's here now. So let's just deal with it. So then the girls go off and they divide up into two groups. It's Kelly, Shamia, and Porsha. They go and do some Coyote Ugly stuff where they surmise that Angela was trying to set Drew up because she put the way she positioned Drew coming the night before, it was almost like she was just trying to set her friend up because all of those other girls are friends with Drew too, and they didn't need to know that Drew was mad, that Portia's mad at Drew because she is working with Dennis on the show. I mean, I don't think she set Drew up. I think she just did what she was probably told to do, and I feel like she just did what anybody else on any other show would do is they would invite the outcast to the event because that's where the drama lies. Period. Angela and Britt and Drew and Cynthia have a different conversation at their whiskey tasting, wherein Britt tries to convince Angela that she plays the victim a lot. And I don't agree with that at all. I think that Angela is just simply showing up and she is just showing up like a wrecking ball wherever she goes. And I love it. And it whether she is intentional with it or not, Angela is probably one of the best additions to this show in a very, very long time. In a very, very long time in this day and age. Angela probably could have been on earlier seasons of this show and done really, really, really well. Done really, really well. Would it not have been crazy to see Angela, Sheree, um, Nene, and all the other girls? You know what I'm saying? I just think that would have been crazy. So anyway, as they have their conversation, Britt does. I think that I understand Britt's position. I also understand a little bit of how I understand how Drew would feel in this situation because Kenya, she's known Kenya longer. She doesn't know Britt. So as an objective person, when they look at the situation, they will feel like, okay, this turned into some like tit for tat that just went straight to the bottom of the barrel. But you know, Kenya's still my girl. I'm still gonna check on her and I still feel for you. But I think her what Angela asked Britt was absolutely valid. Well, how did this happen with your insurance license? What's going on? Give me the details so I can really understand it because I have some knowledge of this business. So tell me what it is that has happened to you so I can at least understand it better. But the way the scene is really kind of described when we go back to the peace brunch, it feels like Brit maybe received them in a different way, and it feels like they received her in a different way. maybe her posture coming into it felt, as I think they said, entitled, and like, oh, well, Kenya's no longer here. I'm here. So get used to it. And for Brit, she's thinking, this happened to me. Are you guys here for me? I thought this was supposed to be my support, and you guys were going to hear me out, but you're already talking about Kenya. So I don't know. And interestingly enough, the ghost of Kenya looms over the show still, because as Shamia was speaking about her DV situation, and we go into the look back at Cynthia's mom speaking about it, it was Kenya Moore's actual PSA that they were actually filming this for. So again, the Kenya Moore still lives on in this show in so many interesting ways. Cynthia is there to once again kind of rally the girls. Like, she's like, listen, Britt was the person that this thing happened to. She was the person who was exposed in this horrific way. Granted, whether or not these things were already online to show them at the event, it was just, like, have some empathy for her, but you can still love your friend too, right? So there was Cynthia yet again offering sage advice, whether or not it's going to be received well or not. And I admire Cynthia for that, because that's not always the easiest stance to take, because ultimately what it's meant is that she and her friendship with Kenya has probably been put on ice. And let me tell you why I feel for Cynthia. And I feel for Cynthia because, and it's interesting that Cynthia is the person who is still on this show. Okay. It's interesting that she is the person that has lasted, I don't want to say the longest on this show, but she has definitely outlasted a lot of other people on this show. And Cynthia has always been kind of at the mercy of these two other ultra powerful women in Nene and Kenya. And she's kind of had to jockey and navigate these tricky waters between these two powerhouse housewives. And what sometimes it overshadowed was Cynthia's own power as a housewife. And I'm going to navigate these murky waters between the two of you guys. But ultimately, I have to choose myself, and I have to choose what feels right for me. And I think that this is an instance where I'm actually really kind of seeing Cynthia in a completely different light. Maybe not a completely different light, but I think I'm just appreciating it more, because she is having to stand up for what she feels like is right, regardless of whether or not those friends decide that they ultimately want to stay in her life or not. And I would go even further to say I respect Cynthia so much more for choosing herself and choosing the side that she is actually choosing right now, which is, this is what feels right to me. And that's going to be regardless of whether or not you take those actions and stop talking to me, or you take those actions and stop talking to me. It is going to be what it is. And in either instance, none of y'all is going to be able to stop my flow. I love that for Cynthia. I do. And I feel like Cynthia is the type of friend that everybody doesn't always appreciate. And that's the person who's going to tell you the truth gently and honestly, and you may not want to hear it, but she's going to give it to you straight. And I like that. I absolutely like that, especially at this point in my life where I'm at right now. So they get back to the house, and this is where things start to really get interesting. Porsha gets a call from a friend who feels to me like production, who tells her that, oh, Dennis is actually filming with Drew. After he promised that he would not film with Drew, allegedly. And it is what it is at this point. So my thought is this. Okay, how do we tell Drew's story if Dennis is not there and she signed to him in some way, shape, or form? It really doesn't make a lot of sense. But if that is what he agreed to with Porsha, then he should have stuck to that agreement. Point blank, period. Now, does this make Drew look a little crazy? It does. It does make her look a little crazy. But this is what her story is. So there we are. I don't know why she's not getting it, but she's clearly not getting it. So it is what it is, and I can't do nothing else about it except, okay, this girl, this is what you decide to do. You know that you run the risk of losing a friend in this instance, so that has to be your choice. Now, with regards to the friend, it feels like production. So this changes Portia's mood dramatically when she comes down for their last dinner. And, everybody can feel it. Everybody's asking what's wrong. And, the conversation then turns to what happened at dinner that, with them and with Angela inviting, oh, no, 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 no. No. Here's where it started with Britt and Angela discussing their resolve, where Angela did apologize to Britt for not taking her feelings into account when they were having their peace brunch, when they really got into it with the read the room of it all. And so Angela really doesn't understand how she plays the victim. She doesn't feel like she does. And then it goes into accountability for Angela. Like she has to always take accountability. But what about when Kelly asked Portia, why did she steal that woman's husband? Angela's like, did you get answers for that? I want answers. Why isn't Portia ever actually why doesn't she have to be held accountable? Why doesn't she have to answer any questions? Why is it everybody else? And I mean, I was kind of like, that's a fair point. I mean, has she answered that question? I don't really think she has, but it is what it is. Um, I was like, okay, Angela, let's go. And Portia's giving absolutely nothing in very much Nene fashion and old school Nene, not now Nene. Let me make that clear. Circa season 11 Nene. All right. Was it? I think it was 11. Was it 11 or 12? I can't remember honestly. I cannot recall. Whenever it was back in the day, that Nene, not today. Want to make that clear. So as she's doing that, she tells Angela to kiss her behind. And then that spins into Drew addressing the issue about being there and if Portia's okay with it. Portia's like, yeah, girl, you straight. And Drew's like, girl, I'm not dealing with this no more. And I don't blame Drew at this point. I'm leaving too. Like, but I don't know if Drew actually really, really left. But I would have been like, I'm out. I'm outie. I'm not doing this with you no more. I will never speak to you again. And I could be absolutely okay with that because this show does not revolve around you. And I would have been like, deuces. Because it's only so long that somebody can continue to take. I'm apologizing. I'm trying to show up. And at the end of the day, Drew ain't changing. So either you're gonna like the girl or not. And I think that Portia should just make a decision about whether or not she's gonna include like, do you want to talk to the girl or no? Like, because you gotta make at a certain point in time, you're gonna have to make a decision about I'm never speaking to this girl again. And just and call it that. Like, okay, I know who you are. That's it. And that's it. That's all. Like, okay, so now what do we do? How do we mitigate this situation? At some point in time, it's going to either have to be Drew or Portia that stays on the show, if that is going to be the case. Because otherwise, if you're not going to give us anything entertaining, like any back and forth, like I said earlier, like, okay, this is a moot point, and I'm tired of talking about it. Period. So after dinner, there's the chaos of, suddenly Portia is ready to party. She's dressed again and it's time to hit the pool. So Kelly, Britt, Shamia, and Portia all party by the pool. Angela can hear them yakking it up and twerking and all the good stuff that the girls like to do. And she overhears them talking about her. So then she starts recording because she wants to have it there. I don't know why, for posterity, because maybe cameras weren't really running at that point in time and she needed to have proof of this. Some producer probably told her, girl, get your camera up because we ain't there. And they're doing this after hours. So then I guess after she hears her name and after she hears Portia say something about, shagging Charles, then she comes downstairs and she asks Portia, what's up? And at that point in time, she says Portia gets to running, and that is pretty much it. Now, Kelly does confirm that Portia did say this. Angela, the next morning when she runs into Kelly, she's like, girls, do not come at me with this fake energy because I'm not doing it with you today or anybody else. I am done playing nice with Portia's puppets. I'm over it. And let's talk about Portia's puppets. I do feel like there's a balance here. One is this is Portia's birthday weekend, so obviously there is going to be some catering to the birthday person, but to a certain degree, it kind of feels like it's over catering to her, right? To her ups and her downs, her whims, her needs, her moods, and all of this. And it's just like it to me, it would have to be exhausting in order to be in that position, especially for Shamia, who is continuously advocating for Porsha, continuously trying to stick up for her, continuously trying to explain and over explain Portia's sometimes bratty behavior on the show. Again, Porsha from Watch What Happens Live is the Porsha I need on the show all the time. But I understand the reality of life is that that is not always the case, right? And I have to also own that for my own life. It ain't always roses and sunshine for me either, as you guys have clearly noticed. But when it comes to I just feel like they're showing us these different layers that we saw sometimes in Portia's Family Matters. And Porsha now also reminds me of Teresa to a certain degree. If you watched Jersey, you will likely understand what I mean. I feel like Porsha is morphing into a Teresa in some interesting ways. Let me know if you figured it out. I'll discuss it in another video because this video is getting too long. But let me know what you guys thought about the episode. Also, the after show is out. I did not see in the after show where they discussed whether or not Porsha said that about Charles or not. So I don't really know. Y'all gonna have to tell me. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell button, and I will catch you in the next video.